Hey there, welcome back to Fragrance Veritas. I'm Chris. In my last video, I talked about the scents I was packing for a quick vacation to Los Angeles. But because I got an impulse control problem and a bad habit of hoarding fragrances, I couldn't resist going hunting for new ones while I was there. So I ended up bringing home 7 bottles, all small, 30 ml or less, except for one, and I didn't plan a single one of them. That's not a flex about being spontaneous. It's actually the whole point here. I bought these across 5 completely different kinds of stores. A recommendation-driven boutique, a curated niche shop, an Ulta of all places, a vintage clothing store, and what was basically a wholesale warehouse with a cash register in downtown LA. The environment I was standing in did way more to dictate what I came home with than any amount of research that I'd done beforehand. Now, a quick heads up before we start. Looking at this haul, I noticed it skews gentler. Maybe a bit further towards the feminine end of the unisex spectrum, perhaps more than a lot of guys usually reach for. If that's outside your comfort zone, no worries. A lot of my shelf space is packed with heavy, ultra-masculine stuff anyways. I also love contrasting textures and juxtaposition. Honestly, treating fragrance like it needs a strict gender label seems pretty limiting to me, and I don't want to miss out on gems because of the color of the bottle. So my first stop was the Scent Room in Larchmont Village. Their model isn't built around a store floor plan. It's built around a person. I wish I could remember her name, but she was so helpful. She quizzed me on my favorite notes and profiles and then hit me with recommendation after recommendation. The problem with really good curator and guide is that they always outpace your wallet, and I definitely left wishing I could have got a few more. But I did walk out with 2 bottles from houses that were new to me. The first was Culot by Versatile Paris. The founder, Coralie, graduated from fragrance school in Paris in 2021 and skipped the whole corporate luxury route to start her own thing. It's an oil-based extrait, and it's easily the weirdest scent of the 7. It takes a jasmine tea idea and twists it with an apricot skin, wasabi, fresh ginger, and green garlic. Yeah, you heard that right, garlic. But trust me, it doesn't smell like dinner. The spices give it this electric camphoris bite that cuts through the fruit and makes the tea feel hyper-real and intensely green. It sits close to the skin, feels totally modern, and doesn't smell like anything else on my shelf. The second bottle was Sulawesi by Nissaba. Nissaba is a Swiss brand started by Sebastian Tissot, who spent 16 years at Firmenich mapping out where natural ingredients come from. He built a model around using 90% natural ingredients with 5% of sales going straight back to the local farming communities. Sulawesi is his tribute to Indonesian patchouli. I love patchouli, and I think it's been bastardized by the current trends in fragrance. Modern designer perfumery has turned patchouli into a sugary Snickers bar, so people forget what it actually smells like. Sulawesi fixes that. It's cool, aromatic, and loaded with nutmeg, juniper, and dark, damp, earthy patchouli. It's dirty, it's raw, and it's rugged in a way that most modern scents aren't brave enough to be anymore. So after that, I headed over to Hollywood and hit up Scent Bar. Scent Bar is interesting. It arranges its shelves by dominant note instead of by brand. It sounds like a simple layout choice, but it's actually a huge deal. I didn't realize what a big deal it was until I walked in and started exploring. Most retail forces you to browse by brand, which means you're just following the path the marketing department has built for you. But when you organize by note, the store stops arguing with you. I walked in, I bypassed the fruit and the gourmand sections completely and went straight for florals, teas, herbals, and camphoris. I skipped woods because I already got way too many at home, and I found more great option and new houses to explore in 90 minutes than I would have in a month of perfume doom scrolling. So, what did I buy? Well, thinking about my beautiful wife, I picked up Pomelo Oolong by Danam. Even though it was buying for her, I always try these things on my own skin. And I kept catching whiffs of it from the back of my hand, and I snuck sniffs all day, realizing that I accidentally bought something that I loved, for me to wear myself. And now we're sharing it, whether she likes it or not. This is a rare tea set that isn't just bergamot wearing a costume. It opens with this sparkling, slightly bitter pomelo and transitions into a dry, crisp, photorealistic oolong tea with a hint of white florals for lift. It stays totally clean without getting sticky or sweet. Now, are those white florals going to turn off some guys? Yeah, probably. A lot of men are trained to see jasmine and tuberose as a red flag. I don't have that reflex, but I don't hold it against you if you do. White florals, to me, are one of the most incredible notes available to the art of perfumery, and smelling good is the only test that matters. My second grab at Scent Bar was Caswell-Massey's Rose. I loved the bottle design. Not this one, the full size. And since I'm always searching for a great rose, I couldn't pass this up. It opens like a dry champagne. Tart blackcurrant wild fig before bringing in a clean rose backed by vetiver and a soft musk. It never gets powdery or syrupy. Most people who say they hate rose actually just hate the old school, powdery, overly sweet rose. If you build a rose with a green structure, some tart fruit, and a hint of wood, it can work on anyone. So after those niche boutiques, I ended up at Ulta. The rest of my family was doing a deep dive into makeup and skincare, so I wandered over to their tiny fragrance section, which is mostly mass market designer bottles and a huge celebrity posters. So look, the fragrance community loves to shit on celebrity fragrances without even smelling them, and honestly, most of the time that's fair. But standing there with zero expectations, I tried Billie Eilish's Your Turn 2, and I was pretty surprised. I just got myself this little 10ml decant, which was also nice because it was cheap. It opens spicy and green with a pimento berry and cassis shifting into black tea and fig, and then settles into this deep, earthy dry down of vetiver and frankincense. It completely ignores the usual sweet vanilla formula that celebrity scents rely on. I find it to be quite grounded, resinous, and I've got to be honest, it's really well done. At this little 10ml bottle on top too, so yeah, scooped it up on the spot. And then later in the week, we headed over to American Rag, checking out some vintage clothes with my daughter. While meandering through the endless supply of 501s and overpriced Harley t-shirts, I stumbled across a small display counter and found Desert Kush by D-Lo. Again, nice little small bottle. Every couple of years, the perfume industry rediscovers cannabis and gives us something that smells like cheap head shop candle. Desert Kush is not that. It takes the dry, herbal side of the plant and sets it in a hot, arid landscape. Dry earth, sun-baked wood, and warm resins. No skunk weed or smoke gimmick here, just a really spacious, meditative green scent. And the last shop was total accident. I was eating some tacos with my family at Sonora Town in downtown LA. And I'm sitting there on the sidewalk and I look through some dirty glass windows and I saw stacks of perfume boxes piled all the way to the ceiling. This place was called Perfumeria Starlux. It's essentially a wholesale warehouse, albeit on a smaller scale. There's no browsing or testing. You just walk up to that counter, you tell them what you want, and they head to the stacks to retrieve, you pay out, and you go. I blurted out Mont Blanc Explorer Platinum because I tried it recently, liked it, and to be honest, it was clearly top of mind for me, and I was put on the spot. $50. That got me a gift set. That gift set got me a 100ml bottle, a 10ml travel spray, and some shower gel. That's a pretty good deal. And nobody talks about Explorer Platinum because it gets buried in the shadow of the original Explorer, which itself just gets lost in a mix of the Creed Aventus dupe industrial complex. But I don't think that's fair. On its own merits, it's great and punches way above its downright affordable price. This is cold, metallic violet leaf, clary sage, dry cedar. It's crisp, it's airy, it's mountain cold. And it's an affordable designer release that actually has a distinct personality all its own. And I think it should be getting way more love than it is. So those were the 7 I actually squeezed into my luggage. Luckily for me, luggage space was tight. If it wasn't, I'd be selling pictures of my feet online to cover the cost of all these bottles I would have bought. But I did test 6 other scents that I ended up leaving on the table. And honestly, a few of those were real mistakes. First is Diptyque Rose Rock. And I got to admit something first. I appear to be in a full-blown rose phase right now. I didn't consciously decide this was going to be my current thing. It just happened to me. The Diptyque shop in Larchmont gave me a sample, and I've already ordered a decant because a full bottle runs $345 US, and I have a mortgage to pay. What makes Rose Rock cool is the concept. It comes from a collection built around things in nature that actually don't have a scent at all, like coral, mother of pearl, and in this case, a desert rose. If you don't know, a desert rose isn't a flower, it's a mineral rock formation shaped by wind and sand. Fabrice Pellegrin built this with Italian lemon over centifolia rose absolute, patchouli, and ambrox. On skin, it's dry, salty, cold, and stony. An anti-bouquet rose that's phenomenal in hot weather, believe it or not. The ratings online are pretty mediocre, mostly because people complain it doesn't smell enough like rose, but it's literally named after a rock. Turning up expecting a lush Damascena rose and leaving disappointed isn't a review of the fragrance, it's a review of your own expectations. For me, I love this fragrance. It makes me feel good when I wear it, and I like it for a full bottle. Then there's Ephemeral Dyadic, Bodhi in Utah. First off, it's one fragrance, not 2, and it comes out of an Istanbul art studio named after the main characters in one of the greatest movies ever made, Point Break, and the text on the box is literally a chunk of Bodhi in Utah's dialogue. I love that so much you don't even understand. But despite the Surf Heist film branding, the scent itself is surprisingly quiet and contemplative. Cool cardamom, tea, iris, tonka, incense, and amber. The rep at the scent room tossed a sample in my bag without me even knowing, which was a legendary move. Now, I like it way more than I expected, and finding a decant's tough, so I may have to order a full bottle. And then we have Trudon Absolute. This is my big regret, the one I kept thinking about. Trudon's been making wax since 1643, and they literally supplied Versailles. And this 2024 release by Antoine Lai is a tribute to Louis XIV, who hated the animalic court perfumes of his era and doused himself in orange blossom instead. So it's built around orange blossom Absolute, but spiced with mandarin, saffron, frankincense over guaiac wood and iris. It never gets overly sweet or heady. 1 hour it feels like a soft floral, the next it shifts into a dry and warm wood. I don't know why, but I put that bottle down. I already have a decant heading my way. Fifth was L'Artisan Parfumer 26 Tenebrae. Cold fir needles, frankincense, damp earth, and woods. The concept is a forest so dense the light barely gets through, but execution-wise, it smells like walking out of a wet pine woods in early spring. Ethereal, misty, and cold. The main community knock on it is its performance. People complain it's not lasting. File that into things I've stopped caring about. Performance is a bonus, not a requirement for me, and no one's sufficiently explained to me why a fragrance that's beautiful for 3 hours is somehow worse than one that's mediocre for 9. Finally, we come to one of my favorite houses, Acqua di Parma. I was in a Bloomingdale's. They had this beautiful display, and I tried all the flankers for Buongiorno. One of the 5 of their new flankers, Buongiorno Gioco del Destino. In full disclosure, I already own the original Buongiorno. It's one of my favorite fragrances. So obviously I needed to try the new flankers, and incidentally, I like them all, but Gioco del Destino stood out. It's a 2026 release, worked by Fabrice Pellegrin and Olivia Giacobetti. It's billed as a neo-gourmand, bright Italian mandarins and lemons sitting over a toasted bran wheat absolute and benzoin. And that wheat note is the whole magic trick. It adds this warm grain-like texture under the citrus that's totally unique. People online are calling it synthetic and scoring that poorly. I don't care. It smells good, and I love it anyways. So, looking back at this whole trip, 2 of my absolute favorite pickups were total impulse buys. Desert Kush, while my daughter was hyper-focused on vintage teas, and Your Turn too, because I was bored in Ulta. Both are great, and Billie Eilish might actually be the bottle I'm reaching for the most since I've got home. So what's the lesson I learned here? Simple. Stop over-researching and just get into different rooms. I'm so guilty of this, but we spend so much time in this hobby looking at note pyramids on screens and then trying to calculate what we're going to like. But every one of these 5 fragrances offered a totally different way to browse, and every one of them handed me something I would have completely missed online had I been left to my own devices. Coming home with 7 unplanned bottles isn't a failure of restraint. It's just what happens when you let brick-and-mortar stores do their jobs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a quick tour through LA's fragrance spots, do me a favor and hit the like button. It really does help. And hit the subscribe button while you're at it. You do that, and we'll be seeing each other again. Thanks again.